Tell me when.
You're good. It's going.
Hey everybody, I told you this would be the last video, but it's not, because I came across some organization or company that's involved in carbon credits. And so this is Caleb Smith from the Grower Carbon Alliance. And I'm going to ask him a few questions about carbon sequestration, and how it all factors in. So Caleb, what's the deal with carbon credits and farming?
Yeah, so in the last 200 or so years, we have emitted a lot of carbon into our atmosphere. And as a result of that excess buildup of carbon, our weather has become a lot more variable. It's called global warming or the greenhouse gas effect.
Right.
And we have to come up with solutions to take that CO2 out of the atmosphere because we have too much CO2 in our atmosphere, and it's going to cause issues down the road. So one of the ways that we can fight climate change and pull CO2 out of the atmosphere is with farmers. Farmers are in a very unique position, right? Because they control a bunch of land. And with that land, we can actually store the carbon in the atmosphere. If we think about how this works, when we grow plants through the process of photosynthesis convert CO2 into physical biomass. That physical biomass can actually be stored in the soil as carbon long term. And as we do things like plant cover crops and no-till and reduce our tillage and raise cattle differently, we can actually do things that result in more carbon being pulled into the soil. And this will, of course, reduce the amount of CO2 in our atmosphere to fight the climate changes.
Sure. And so how do carbon credits, though, factor in? I hear a lot about carbon credits. It's actually on the AP exam quite often.
Yep.
So how does it, work?
Yeah, so a carbon credit is just 1 metric ton of CO2. And we can actually quantify that in soil. So if we'll come in at year 0 and we will sample the soil for carbon. The growers will implement a certain practice like no-till and we'll sample again. So we can essentially find out how much they increase their soil carbon, and we can equate that to atmospheric levels of carbon. So it's a 1-to-1 conversion, right? 1 metric ton of CO2 is equivalent to 1 metric ton of soil carbon. So it's quantifiable. We can track the changes in the soil.
And what do farmers get with a credit? I mean, is there any...
Sure. Yeah, a carbon credit is almost like a commodity. It's almost like a stock. The price goes up and down. The price fluctuates. Currently, the price of a carbon credit is around $15 to $20. So growers can sequester anywhere from 0.1 to about 1 ton of carbon per year. So essentially, depending on the price, they can make anywhere from $5 to maybe $20 an acre.
So I'm a farmer and I, let's say, have 15 carbon credits, so I multiply that by the price of the credit. And so what do I do with that materially? Do I use that to buy other things, or can I save it for retirement as a farmer?
Sure. So one of the things that farmers do is they use that additional money to actually pay for the cover crop seed or pay for a new piece of equipment that will allow you to no-till. So it really is a way to put money back into the farm and invest in the farm in terms of sustainability. When we increase soil carbon, we increase that soil's ability to withstand abiotic stressors like heat and drought. So it really is a win-win-win-win for everyone.
And what are the challenges for getting farmers to buy into carbon credits?
Yeah, so there is a big misconception around some of these practices that you can do. Early on, we thought that some of these practices would limit yield. With modern research, we've actually found really good ways to manage these types of systems and manage these cover crops and prevent that yield drag. So really, that's the big misconception, that these practices result in less profitability, and that's simply not true.
And if a farmer decides, hey, I don't want to do carbon credits, why would they do that? Is it simply political, or is there a financial reason as well?
Yeah, well, some of it's political, some of it's agronomic, right? Farmers till for a reason. When they till, it gets warmer faster and it dries up quicker. The issue is that you're getting a short-term benefit for a long-term deleterious effect. So there are reasons that people till. There are reasons that people don't plant cover crops. Cover crops are expensive, and it's another thing to do, during the year. So, that's some of the big reasons that they don't do it.
Okay.
You have to really buy into it.
Wow, that's really interesting. And what's some of the reactions that you've gotten from farmers at the trade show?
Yeah, a lot of mixed emotions, right? There's a lot of people really excited about this because this is a chance to have a new revenue stream that essentially, there's a lot of people no-tilling before you could sell carbon. There were a lot of people planting cover crops before you could sell carbon. Now they have a way to get a new novel stream for improving their land and helping the environment.
Wow. And who do you sell those credits to?
Yeah, so big corporations, any corporation that has a carbon neutral target. So for example, General Motors is going to be carbon neutral by 2040. They can either change the way they do their business, change the way they make vehicles, or they can pay farmers to offset that carbon for them. offset those emissions for them.
Wow. Well, thank you. This is stuff that you guys are going to have to internalize.
Yeah.
This was really well articulated, so I really hope you enjoyed this. Thank you, Caleb. I
Yeah,
really appreciate
no
it.
problem.
And I promise, this is the last video.
Yeah, go to college and be an agronomist.
Okay, for some of you who want to get some perspective, these are some of the farming machines that are used. Give you a sense of, look at this thing. These are incredible tractors and sprayers, and I actually have no idea how any of these work, but they're pretty incredible. What I'm finding out is that the cost of some of these things are just exorbitant. And as you can see here, it looks like something you would see in a Batman movie. This one looks like you would see in a Transformer movie. And I don't even want to ask what this thing costs. I'm just going to see if these guys can tell me how much this costs. Hi, my name is Jerry Sitcher. I'm a teacher in New York City, and I teach a component of environmental science that deals with farming. And I think one of the interesting questions my students would have is, how much would something like this cost?
Like the combine?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't work at John Deere. So.
I think, you know, I heard from somebody the other day, between like, you know, it's going to vary from dealer to dealer and
Right.
region, but like around $600,000 to $800,000.
Depends
Wow.
on the headers on it,
Configuration.
size. There's so many ways you can configure
Yes.
it.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the cost of probably 3 Rolls Royces. I'd rather have something like this, though. At least it has real
You can
utility.
check it out on, you can go to their website and get pricing there too.
And do you know how long something like this would last? If a farmer were to buy something like this,
Long time.
so they could have it indefinitely, I imagine, even